watching Channel 4. In a change to the scheduled programme, Mountbatten Windsor and Mandelson Go Wild will be now shown at a later date. Instead, Dr. McElvoy's here to talk about Star Trek in Critic's Log.
I'm sitting on top of the world. I'm singing a song, yes, singing a song. And I'm sweating the blues of the world. I'm going along, yes, going along. Glory, hallelujah, I just told the parson, hey, Pa, get ready to call. Just like Humpty Dumpty, I'm going to fall. And I'm sitting on top of the world. I'm singing a song, yes, singing a song. Come on, give me all you got.
I'm trying to decide if I should tell you that you took my bed.
I'm going along.
Watch me! Watch me!
Of the world.
Oh no.
Singing a song.
What just happened?
Parson,
Oh no!
just like Humpty Dumpty.
This is Captain Tilly. What the heck?
And I'm sitting on top of the world.
No! Space. A continuous extension interval between planets, stars and other objects. These are the critiques of the critic McElvoy. His continuing mission to review strange new shows, to seek out new work and new bastardizations, to boldly note what no critic has noted before. Guten Tag, I'm Dr. McElvoy, it's not my real name. Apologies if you stayed up for Mountbatten Windsor and Mandelson Go Wild. I understand it was scheduled for 1:55 in the morning, but you've got me instead, and lucky you, because this is a show about Star Trek, and naturally there's a little bit of overlap there between fan bases. So, what are we talking about? We're talking about Starfleet Academy, Episode 8, The Life of the Stars. Who's the star? Well, implicitly, it's Tilly from Star Trek Discovery. Look, there are certain things in this world that you just don't ever want to see again. You don't want to see typhoid, you don't want to see cholera, you don't want to see a world before the COVID vaccine unless you're mad. You don't want World War, and you certainly don't want to see Mary Wiseman's Tilly. This ridiculous, this idiot, this stupid character who never should have got into Starfleet Academy in the first place. That's in the 23rd century when it was a real educational institution for military people, let alone in the 32nd century when sort of police academy like they let anybody in. But she went to be a tutor in the 32nd century version because, I don't know, people thought that she had wisdom of some kind to communicate to people, though it's never really established what. She'd teach them to blub perhaps, and to hug, and to emote, to cry their little eyes out. All those things that Starfleet officers never used to do because they were professionals. It was a different world, wasn't it? Before. So, let's just think for a second about the decision to bring in Tilly to Starfleet Academy as a merry, wise old sage to give the kids an uplift after their traumatic experience a few episodes ago when they were attacked by cannibals and Bobby the Vulcan died, and they were all very upset because, mystifyingly, they were put into the field in a real mission as opposed to a simulator where they'd have been completely safe and could have learned from the experience without lifelong trauma. You'd have to exist in a very Kurtzmanian bubble, wouldn't you, to believe that Tilly was a prestige character, the kind of person you'd want to see again. Not the kind of person that you dread to be trapped with even for 5-10 minutes. You know, you'd rather blow yourself out of an airlock into space and spend proper time with Tilly because she's so sodding irritating and vacuous. But not in Kurtzman world. In Kurtzman world, Tilly represents everything that Star Trek should be. It's sort of soft and wishy-washy, and it's all about your feelings, man. It's all about, you know, coming to terms with your feelings and knowing who you are and all this other melodramatic soap operatic bullshit. With a lot of caked-on, clad-on cod philosophy for us to absorb, and there's plenty of that in this episode. So we find ourselves in a situation where Tilly is brought back to rehabilitate the kids. Work your magic, says the Chancellor of Starfleet Academy. Work your magic? What magic? Teach them all to be, you know, insufferable, you know, neurodivergent types? Yes, please. That's exactly what we need in space, isn't it? On deep space missions where you're required to show a great deal of resilience. Now, resilience is one of the themes of this episode. Getting it, inculcating it. But they're choosing people to do it who have none. Or indeed don't really have any in the conventional sense. I mean, what's Tilly going to offer somebody? Oh, well, I think we should all cry out our problems and hug it out. Great. Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to take all the competent officers and go off on deep space missions and do what Starfleet's been doing for centuries. And you can all enjoy yourself on the USS Andrex and have a good old blub in a nebula somewhere, while us real officers go out and do the shit. And you won't believe the means by which she's going to rehabilitate the kids. It's not a lesson in practice in the field. It's not a lesson about, well, these are my experiences and this is how I got through them. So she's not relating by example. Tilly's magic, if you can believe it, is to teach theatre. Yes, you heard me correctly. To teach theatre. She does the theatre group. Theatre. Now, I don't recall Tilly, who, as I remember, was an engineer, knowing anything about theatre. But apparently she does. Apparently she knows all about the dramatic arts, and she believes that by getting the kids to choose a play and act it out and think about it like a sort of, I don't know, a junior school English teacher, that they'll be able to deal with the murder of their colleagues and their deep-found psychological trauma and their PTSD and all the rest of it. I mean, you know, I can't count the number of kids at my old school who, despite, you know, their dad murdering their mother and them being sexually abused and them being, you know, psychotic because they were over-medicated, all the rest of it, got solace when, sitting in Misty Arker's English class, they read Our Country's Good, and all of a sudden they were fine. That's all it takes, apparently. Just reading a play and identifying with the characters. And who said that Starfleet Academy was a show for theatre kids, run by theatre kids? You'd never sodding guess, would you? Now that, you might think, would be insane enough if that were the story. But here's the twist in the life of the stars. It's not really the story at all. This show doesn't have an A-plot. That's just how it was billed. In reality, Tilly shows up, has a drink with the Chancellor, And the Doctor teaches her class, but we don't see much of it because the decision is made inexplicably to split the characters up and have a series of sort of emotional vignettes in which are all very whimsical and reflective, you know, the sort of thing. Chin stroking, 1,000-yard stares. There's another story here about Sam, the retarded photonic life form who's taking up a real person's place at Starfleet Academy, going back to her homeworld with the Doctor and the Chancellor because she's malfunctioning, she's glitching all the time after the events of that traumatic episode a few weeks back that traumatised us all. The Doctor can't fix her despite being a hologram with 900 years of operation under his belt. Can't do it, apparently. That's not enough. He's not enough of an expert on his own kind to fix somebody even with nearly a millennia's worth of experience. So he is to accompany Sam and the Chancellor back to Kask, which is the land of the photonics. And there, on Kask, they decide what we've already known, which is that poor old Sam, Serious Acclamation Mill, is a complete waste of time and photons and should be permanently retired. A cheer goes up throughout the land and the world, the universe in fact. They're going to kill her. They're going to turn her off. But don't get too excited, folks, because this is Starfleet Academy. It's inconceivable that Sam could stay switched off. No, in fact, it turns out, guess what? The problem is, the reason she's glitching is because she too lacks resilience, just like the kids back at the academy. She can't function, can't cope with it. It's caused a sort of a feedback loop in her program, which stops it manifesting itself. It's kind of like the photonic expression of trauma. Are you still with me? Because I'm not sure I am. The conclusion is, and you're not going to believe it, is that the Doctor has to parent Sam. They reboot her so that she's a baby, a little nodule again that grows into a human. And because time works differently, conveniently, on Kask, the Doctor can stay there for what, from our perspective, is about 25 minutes and experience 17 years with Sam and parent her. He's going to parent her to teach her resilience, give her a childhood in real time from a Kaskian point of view. The Doctor is going to parent Sam, a character he's hitherto shown no interest in. We discover that the reason he's shown no interest in her is because he's still traumatised by the death of his fake holographic daughter from the Star Trek Voyager episode Real Life. Sadistically, he makes Sam watch it. He makes Aki watch clips from it. Now, this is the episode, you may remember, where the Doctor wanted to experience what it would be like to be a dad. So he programmed a family on the holodeck, and but you know, Kess and various other people said, well, actually, Doc, it's too perfect. You're going to have to program in dysfunction and trauma and all the rest of it. So they made it realistic, and the daughter had an accident and died. You know, the daughter that the Doctor had for, 8 minutes, and he had to wave her goodbye. It was awful. Switch her off. And that was the end of that. That's his experience of family life. A highly compressed, completely artificial, and wholly resettable dysfunctional family that lasted about 28 minutes. Yet, for some reason, the Doctor believes that he is qualified to bring up this girl, Sam, on his own. Aki, the Chancellor, can't be mum because she would age in a weird way. In fact, she could stay because her species is so long-lived it absolutely wouldn't matter, would it? What's 17 years to a creature that lives 1,000 years or whatever? She wouldn't be any visibly different. But no, she can't be fucked. So she goes back to the shuttle, so she won't have 17 years of her life stolen, and the Doctor stays and parents Sam. Now, it just struck me what qualifies a doctor to be anybody's dad? Do you know the answer? I mean, think about it for a moment. I have, and I haven't got anywhere with it. The doctor is a hologram, 9-year-old hologram, who doesn't experience life the way we do, has never had a childhood of his own, by the way. How can he teach a kid what it's like to be a kid and show resilience in adolescence when he's had none? He was switched on as a fully functioning adult, just like Sam was originally. So he's only experienced family life briefly on the holodeck. He's never been a human being. He's only sort of observed them from afar and approximated them. Of course, Sam isn't a human being either. So he can teach her what it's like to be a sort of fake person, a kind of an imposter, something, an anthropoid, something that looks human but isn't. What a great lesson to install in your kids. Remember, you're never one of them, but you look like them. For some inexplicable reason, you've been assigned a racial type and you've been given breasts and all these other things which are completely redundant for photonic life forms, but you've got them. Well done, congratulations. Go ahead and bank all of that. The doctor's never had a lifelong relationship with a woman. What does the doctor know about women? As far as we know, he hasn't had a sniff in centuries. What's he going to tell her? What wisdom can he impart? What can he do? But the writers of this show think, well, Doctor's a hologram, Sam's a hologram, so wouldn't it be sweet and lovely and whimsical if the Doctor got to be a dad? That would cheer up the miserable old sod, wouldn't it? And now he'd have a daughter, an irritating daughter. So Sam returns to Starfleet Academy, fully functional. Sam 2.0, she's now had a whole childhood, and the Doctor's a dad. And this is happening in parallel to the plot that we know back on Starfleet Academy, where they're all wrestling with the play. So in this episode you have essentially 3 parallel stories. The kids with the play, Sam on her home world, and the kids away from the classroom wrestling with their relationships and their feelings. Poor old Terima, the killer Betazoid, is now in Starfleet Academy because they think that teaching her non-warlike things will keep her calm and stop her killing people. No, that's real. I'm not making that up. She sort of stumbles into the Genesis, Caleb, unspoken love things. It's a bit of a love triangle, and they all reflect on it. But Terima likes Genesis, and Genesis likes Terima, and Caleb would like to have them both, and they all think about each other for a bit. Now, if this was a classic Star Trek episode, it would all be about the classroom. It would all be about rehabilitating the kids. It would be laser-like focused on that. Special guest star Mary Wiseman. She's here to teach the kids. In the end, Mary Wiseman's character does almost nothing. The return of Tilly amounts to her saying a few things like, well, I don't think you want to be the ghost girl in the play. And that's my deep psychological insight. And then she's gone. Thanks for coming, Tilly. That was incredibly insightful. What would we have done without you? So there's no focus. It's just a lot of meandering, whimsical guff. And there's a lot of wistful, philosophical gubbins in this episode, of the kind that Alex Kurtzman and co. absolutely love. You know the sort of thing. You heard a lot of it in Picard. The fault is not in our stars, but in ourselves. Now, of course, they can't use that. That's being used in DS9. That's Shakespeare. That's Julius Caesar. They don't have anything good like that. So they sort of do their AI version. Life is hard. But what a joy it is to be alive and not dead. but alive. Life is difficult, but to know oneself is to live one's life, is to be oneself, is to know oneself, and so on and so on and so on and so on. God, it's exhausting and it's boring, so incredibly boring. So at the end of this episode, bear in mind, just 10 episodes in a season, so this is effectively 2 filler episodes on the trot. The only plot function in this episode is to prime the candidates, harden them up, get them back to where they were, i.e. naive and stupid, for the finale. But we get to the end, and we've got this extraordinary development where the Doctor is now Sam's dad, and this incredible revelation that Tilly teaches theatre studies. It's too much for me, kids. Let's do anomalous readings. Tarima was given a neuroinhibitor to ensure that she couldn't kill anyone, which was great. She referred to herself as a sort of grenade. Everybody looks at me like I'm a grenade. Why shouldn't they? Apparently you can make people's heads explode with your mind. I'd be frightened of you too, Tarima. And no, I wouldn't be satisfied with a little neuroinhibitor in your neck. I'd want to see the specs of that neuroinhibitor. I'd want to talk to the man who invented it. I'd want you to spend a little bit of time in isolation, say 5 to 10 years, before I was completely satisfied that you didn't have any anger issues or psychotic impulses or any of the rest of it. But in this episode, no, she's just back amongst the student population doing her thing. She's got the neuroinhibitor. She'll be fine. No problem there. The fact that the gang all have PTSD is perhaps the greatest indication that they should work in simulators, like they do in this episode. There's a scene at the beginning where they're all doing their thing, and they're all very angry at each other, they're dysfunctional, but they're in a simulated environment. Why couldn't they have done the thing on the chicken teriyaki in a simulator? Do you understand that? I don't either. It's just Starfleet being lazy, really, isn't it? Getting some cheap labour out to fix an old problem. Jaden, when he's discussing a Klingon play, refers to the characters, quote, quadratesticles. As you'll know, one of the weird quirks of Kurtzman era Trek is the discovery revelation that Klingons have 2 members. 2 members and 4 testicles. No wonder Worf had anger issues. And the moment that the Kaskian said that they would terminate Sam was a brief moment of illumination, not just in the episode but also in my life. I felt good suddenly, and they took it all away. Will Sam's reboot cure her retardation? That's the question on everybody's lips now. She's back. Before she was an imbecile, but now she's had a lifetime to mature, to be a real person. Will she be a real person? Will she be somebody that we can actually like and not want to blow out of an airlock? To be continued. And that's that for another week. So, Tilly came back, didn't do anything. We were all traumatised for nothing. And now there are just 2 episodes left. Can Starfleet Academy do anything interesting in the time that remains? In this, its futile first season. I don't know, but we'll find out together. Until next time, I'm Dr. McAvoy. It's not my real name. Goodbye!
Close the channel, Mr. Worf.
Gladly, sir.